Okay, I guess it's time to slowly get started on this. Yeah, welcome to today's stream. Today is Thursday, the 9th of April. And does my sound work okay? Yeah, last time I had a problem with my sound. Wasn't working too good. But yeah, so today, the goal of the stream is to kind of lead people through some of the tooling I would use or I would set up on my own workstation to kind of successfully work with AWS. Now, there's no right or wrong answer here in a sense that people work with AWS in different ways. Some people might use serverless, other people might just use EC2. Some people are database folks or container folks. So the exact set of tools will vary depending on what you do. But I'll go through some stuff which I find essential, especially myself as a infrastructure engineer, right? So when I do some infrastructure development or basically do anything on AWS when it comes to applications and infrastructure and all the things, what kind of tools do I use here, right? So let me switch to my desktop again. It's like that. Awesome. So different mouse, it's this one. Okay. So I will be doing my stuff on a Mac, but in general, this applies to basically any operating system, more or less. Both Linux and Windows can go through most of these things, I believe. Let me just have a look. I think there's nothing here besides something very Mac specific that wouldn't work on Linux and Windows now. You take Windows that has its WSL or Windows subsystem for Linux, helps you immensely on it as well. So a lot of these tools are actually command line utilities as well. Some of them are not. And yeah, I've actually asked around the community on Twitter and my colleagues internally, which tools do they find essential to use on AWS, right? Or what essentials tools do they need to basically interact with AWS? So I got a few suggestions. Pretty cool. Let me just give me a moment to get set up here. Awesome. Cool. So let's start it off by talking about one of the first utilities we're definitely gonna need, right? So especially when you run on a Mac, one of the things you need on a Mac is a tool to install all the other tools. And usually a lot of people kind of opt in to use something called Brew or Homebrew. So this gives you basically a little utility that you will see us using it a lot here, right? So to install Brew, it's actually a kind of a big command, but the best approach would be basically just to go like this and just search for Homebrew. Homebrew. Yeah, so it's basically a package manager, and to install it, you just run this command. So you would paste this command in. This command will install the Brew utility or the Homebrew utility, a package manager that in essence helps you to install all the other packages. Now, I have this already installed because I'm running it. So in order to install it, just hit return or enter, and this should be fine. But I'm going to cancel it out of here. So why is Brew important? Because Brew will be used to install a lot of different tools today. So Brew makes it much easier. Of course, you can do all of these things without Brew as well, if for some reason you wish to not use Brew. But it would be better for you to use it, in a sense that it's much simpler to do all of that. Also, all of the commands I'm going to be running today are actually present on my GitHub page. So if you go to GitHub and find a repository, it's called What I Need for AWS. Basically, I have all the little commands I will be using today and showing off that can help you in, well, setting up your workstation. All right, so we have Homebrew installed, right? What is the other package utility you need to install or to have to basically set up packages on a Mac? Well, that would be pip, right? A lot of times when you use Python, a lot of packages are built in Python. So pip is also a very common package manager. So to install pip, depending on which service system you might have, it may already come with Python. Or if you have to install it as an additional package. I believe I have pip 3 because I have Python 3 running on it. If I would pip 3 dash version, I would be able to get my pip 3 version on it. So I have pip installed here as well. Another thing we need is gem, right? Gem is a package manager for Ruby, because there's actually a single package I'm going to be using today that's based on Ruby. So I'm going to be needing that as well. So package managers, brew, pip, and gem. Also, and npm, so node package manager. There's going to be also a lot of different things to install some packages through node. Some pretty important ones. But where do you start? So let's say you want to do some, I've actually done a stream on this, but one of the first ways to kind of interact with AWS in a more advanced way is you need to install the command line interface or the AWS CLI, well, for AWS, right? So how do you install AWS CLI? We will use our good old friend pip. So pip3 install AWS CLI. Like that, dash user. So this will basically install CLI in my user directory. I've already installed it, so it's pretty good, so I don't have to do anything. So just to verify as this is run, it runs if AWS S3 LS, right? So it is configured. I can see my buckets present in my AWS account. So this is one of the first things you need. I went through this on one of my last streams, you can check it out, but if you do AWS configure, this will basically lead you through the process of configuring AWS CLI. Let me just do this, AWS configure. It will lead you to the process of configuring your AWS CLI by the means of setting up access keys, secret keys. So I can just do that, and like the default region and the default output. So once this is set up, you're ready to use your AWS CLI. It's a pretty important tool. In essence, all the other tools that are kind of command line based are gonna be reliant on you having credentials stored locally. So the fastest way to set up credentials locally is to use AWS configure, right? To use AWS CLI. So that's pretty cool. Now, there's a second version of the CLI. I actually went through this, but there's a second version of the CLI, and there's a kind of a different way to install it as well. It's not available yet in pip. There are some breaking changes between the two, so I would advise that if you want to install it with a CLI version 2, make sure to understand the breaking changes. For example, one of the defaults, which I kind of find odd, is it has a pager set to less by default. So if you would run AWS CLI version 2 and have an output somewhere, it would not output to the screen, it would output to like less or more, or one of those Linux applications. So, which is, it's good if you interact with it directly, but if you have something automated and you expect a JSON output, it might break. So make sure if you're going to install CLI version 2 to check those configuration settings, that they're all actually set up correctly. Also, CLI works on any platform, so Windows, Linux, and Mac OS, so it should work pretty well. Now, I'm not going to go through the list directly. I'm just going to kind of jump around a bit. So you have CLI installed. What is one more thing you would need, especially if you want to do some development? Let's say it's in serverless, or you don't want to do CloudFormation, Terraform, or CDK, or whatever thing you need to do. Well, you need a text editor, right? So what is the text editor of choice? Well, so I would say it's Vim, right? But a Vim is kind of just a general purpose text editor. You either love it or you hate it. I'm not here to tout how good Vim is, but it is good. But Vim kind of misses a lot of things where some other ones might benefit you. And I'm not going to talk about Vim today because Vim is just, well, it's a religion, right? So let's not discuss it. What I'm going to mention today is I'm going to actually show something that a lot of people actually use, is something, well, what a lot of people use for AWS, right? It's Visual Studio Code, right? So This is an open source text editor, or it's a let's say a text editor on steroids, coming from the lovely folks at Microsoft. And this text editor, besides just being able to edit text files, it also supports some additional features when it comes to AWS. So it has built-in support for the AWS toolkit. It has a bunch of plugins that help you work with AWS. So I have a question here. Note, if your AWS configure isn't working, check your secret key starts with a /. Yes, so that's the thing. A secret key is literally just a random string of numbers, of characters, and sometimes it can have a special character in it. So if it starts with a /, yeah, because you would have a problem, because the CLI or a lot of applications look for that thing in a local variable. So if you have a /, it can be ignored. You would have to escape it in some way. But the best approach would be, if you have a / inside of your secret key, just create a new one, and you should be good. Oh, by the way, how do you create a secret key? That would be also a cool thing to show off, right? Let me open up this one. Oh, Cloud9. I'll show that later on. So if you go to IAM and find a user, so go to users. I have a user here called, let's say, John. Security credentials, basically what I would have to do here, I think John, I used it before, but I can remove this one. But basically what happens is I create an access key. It will create an access key and a secret key as well. So, and this is how you do it. You take these two values and paste them in AWS Configure. I'm not going to do that because, well, I don't need this right now. I have my own user set up, and this should be fine. So text editors. Yeah, I mentioned there's a lot of different things, a lot of benefits that this one can have, besides just, having opening a file. Let me open up something I have. For example, can go to streams. I have a stream template here, for example, for CloudFormation. So I have a template for CloudFormation, and this is just a simple text editor. I can just, use it as a standard text editor. But on top of this, it has some additional benefits directly related to CloudFormation, to AWS and CloudFormation, if you look in its extensions, right? So if you look for CloudFormation, there's basically, it's a Visual Studio Code plugin for CloudFormation. If you install it, and now I create a new file. So I have a new file here, right? So let's say I want to write a CloudFormation template. For those of you who do not know what CloudFormation is, it's in essence infrastructure as code utility that allows you to write your infrastructure as a template, be that JSON or YAML, and then just create your resources from there. So it's something you should be using if you're not using it. So how do you do it? You just make like YML, or I'm gonna select YAML in this case. So I set the file format to YAML, so just my plugin can work with this. And then what I do, I just type start and hit enter, and voila. So it has pre-populated or generated a skeleton for my CloudFormation template, right? So it has all the things like metadata, parameters, mappings, conditions, and resources, and outputs where I can just basically plug them in and use them. So if I want to create a resource, let's say an EC2 instance like that, it can generate all those things for me as well. So it is up to date. Sometimes it can happen that this plugin is missing, for example, a new feature, or there's a broken thing in one of the features. I remember there was one thing when it comes to, I believe, some user data was being passed wrongly. It had some escaping problem, but because this thing is basically open source, you can open up the GitHub page here and just have fun with it, right? So you can submit a pull request and add new things in it as well. So pretty useful open source tool that I highly advise for anybody writing CloudFormation on AWS. Second thing, let's keep in the spirit of CloudFormation. There's another tool here called CFN lint, or CloudFormation linter. Now, what this thing does is basically uses CloudFormation lint to parse and show you problems or issues with your CloudFormation template. So let's install this one. I believe I need to reload it. Yeah. Now, let me open up a template like so. I have this our first template here. If I open this, now lint should actually throw me here problems if I have some problems, or how would I do this? What kind of a problem can I cause here? So if I go here and, for example, maybe I can just make a typo. Well, no, actually, this wouldn't show this one. I think I need. Okay, so instance type. See, it will show me the parameter. The parameter instance type is missing a required property type, right? So you can actually see this. This is a wrong property, right? Type. So or actually it's the wrong parameter. So it's missing something else that doesn't exist here. So a CFN lint will automatically help as you're writing your template, it will automatically fix a lot of the problems, or it will point out to problems that you might have with your templates. And one thing that I say when you write CloudFormation templates, best practices start within your text editor. So if you want to get started properly, this is where you do it. You get started here, and this is what you do. So make sure you have the proper plugins. Make sure you have the proper things within your editor to help you out with this. Now, speaking of VS Code and editors, there is something called AWS Toolkit. So the toolkit in itself enables a lot of things, right? So if you go here, let me just remove my face. I think I can do that. Yeah, so you can see here, it is connected to my AWS profile called default. And what it shows here, it shows me a lot of different things, right? See, on the left-hand side, you have your CloudFormation stacks in this region. You have your Lambda functions in this region. You have your schemas, you have your step functions. I have no step state machines and all those things. Like, for example, for your schemas for the event bus, you have them here as well. So if you quickly want to have a look at one of your Lambda functions, you can just kind of double click on that and give it a moment, and it should. Well, you can invoke it on AWS. I believe you could have actually worked with them. Can you? You can also do things such as create new SAM applications, etc., etc. But you're interested in the Darker Unicorn sample template. Where did you see that? Oh, in the CloudFormation thing. So yeah, this is a stack, which it's a factory role stack. So it's a template that basically. I did this last time. Oh, I didn't do this on stream. Yeah. So basically, it's something to do with the AWS CloudFormation custom registry. It doesn't make sense to talk about it now because it's got pretty complex and deep. But it gives you the ability that you can create CloudFormation resources or custom resources through CloudFormation. So, for example, anything that has an API. In my case, it's a API endpoint that creates unicorns. I just basically created a unicorn factory or a unicorn resource within CloudFormation. Yeah, so this thing, there's a few things here you can do, right? It's connected to AWS. You can create new SAM applications and a whole bunch of things. Now, I was under the impression that you can actually pull Lambda functions, but you can invoke Lambda functions, but that's not something I want. So I owe you a session. Oh, yeah, absolutely. If you want me to talk about that, I would be super happy to do it. But it's something that is not super interesting, to be fair, but yeah, you'll see. It's a lot of coding, but we can do that. That's what streams are for, right? Okay, so Explorer, that's pretty cool, right? So I think that's a very useful thing for Cloud9, right? So you can do some things here with, for example, but you can check out Lambda functions within. See, this is something we're missing. That's a good piece of feedback I can give to the folks back in who make this utility, is that it would be great if you can pull this and kind of work on it directly, but nah, you can just invoke the functions. You cannot even edit CloudFormation templates here. So you can delete the CloudFormation stack, which I wouldn't advise doing it through here, but you can kind of work on it as well. Let's see how this create a new SAM application works. So if I click create new SAM applications, interesting. let's create a new SAM application in Python 3.7. Let's do that. Hello world application. There are no workspace folders. Select the folder. Okay. Let's create a workspace folder thing. Let's go here. And let's do this SAM test. Now, I have not tested this out, so let's see how this works. Let's be creative and call it SAM test. Okay, cool. So it has created us a template for a SAM application, right? So this is a Hello World SAM application that we can, well, continue using and deploy a SAM application. What is SAM? SAM is serverless application model. This is something I'm going to get later on into the as we go down. There's also a tool you need to do something with SAM. So, but you can do kind of like baselines through here. What this create new SAM application does, it actually just does the same thing the CLI would do, but just from the text editor. So pretty cool. The toolkit is quite expanding. I believe I have the version for IntelliJ. Yeah, I also did a stream on this a while ago. The IntelliJ version has something else that doesn't exist in the VS Code one. So feel free to ignore all the code here. But one of the things that AWS Toolkit has on this IntelliJ, it has the ability to debug containers or debug your application directly on containers through the IntelliJ AWS Explorer plugin. So if you work with containers, if you develop application on containers, or if you operate application on containers using the AWS Toolkit or Explorer within IntelliJ or PyCharm or any of the IDEs from the same company. What's the name of the company? I forgot always. It's JetBrains. Yes, it's from JetBrains. Anything from JetBrains, you have this ability to run AWS Explorer on it, right? So it's pretty cool. And in this case, I believe you can actually you cannot even edit it here. Unfortunately, you can just execute a function. So that's a shame. But I'll show you later on where you can edit those functions. Okay, let me close this down. We don't want to work with this. Cancel exit. I don't like looking at Java. All right, let's move on. Let's go back actually to the shell. One more thing that I would always advise to people, especially if you do a lot of things through the terminal, is something that would be pretty much required, for, at least for my work, is use something that gives you the ability to have multiple windows or multiple panes or tabs or however you'd call it, like within your terminal. So let's say I'm editing this, I'm here editing this stuff file, right? And I want to go and run a command on this. So what I can do, I can create a new window, new shell window, and do it here. But I can be smarter and I can use something else here. I can use something called, well, in my case, I use tmux or terminal multiplexer. So tmux is the same thing as screen, or yeah, Doug says iterm2. Iterm2 actually supports this by default. So to be fair, yes, you can do like that. So iterm creates basically an additional window within your terminal, right? But and that's I think that's a very approachable way. So if you have a Mac and iterm2 by default, it has these the ability to split windows and create things. But I use tmux, right? So tmux is a similar tool that does very similar things as well. So in essence, tmux gives you the ability to create like this overarching session, which can have multiple different splits, right? So I can kind of move my cursor between here and here, right? So me editing stuffs here like that gives me the ability to maybe run a command or two here, right? So I can also do this. I can split the window more, and you can go on and on. But one of the other things you can do here, you can create instead of creating just panes, you can create a window. So if I do that, you see on the bottom here, I have 1 and 2. So here I can keep moving between 1 and 2. Now it takes a while for you to get, kind of into all of this. I'm pretty used to tmux and Vim, and this is kind of second nature for me. And the great thing about this, if you have a remote workstation that you operate through the CLI, having things such as screen or tmux will keep your session alive even if you after you close your terminal window. So it keeps the session active. So let's say you want to do some rsync or scp from somewhere to somewhere, and you close your window. Even if you close your window, the tmux or screen session will keep running in the background. So it should not be broken, right? So let's stay in tmux for a while. So how do you install tmux? It depends, right? But on Mac it would be brew install tmux, right? I believe that's the latest version you would install as well. I have not tried to upgrade mine, but yeah. So this is something you would do. Again, tmux is not necessarily connected to AWS. Yeah, it's installed. I can upgrade to 3.0, but I don't know what the breaking changes are. I don't want to break my configuration. Let's stay in the shell. One more tool. So you've seen the AWS CLI, right? So AWS S3 LS, right? That's fine. That's great. It's a great tool. It's a simple. If you want to write like list all your buckets, AWS 3 LS, right? That's simple. Let's say you wanna list all the I don't know, EC2 instances, right? So you can do AWS EC2 and then LS. That doesn't work. Oh, there's a whole bunch of commands here now, right? So that's a lot of things here. Okay, I need to remember all of these things. But there's a little plugin or a little tool for your shell that can help you. So in my use case, I'm using as my shell, I use ZSH, yeah, or Z shell, right? Instead of bash, I'm using Z shell, and Z shell has this, let's say a mod pack or a plugin pack that kind of helps me a lot. It's called Z shell or ZSH. So if I go here and just search for ZSH, not plugins, but just this. It's a really nice utility, and to install it is just a single, well, curl or wget command. Now, make sure you use this proper URL from their proper website, because passing a shell command directly from the internet, it can be interesting. Yes, oh my. But what's the great thing about oh my ZSH is that it's, beside it having different themes, you can see the way it looks here. It also supports plugins. And there's a whole bunch of plugins. So if I would go to the GitHub page and find their, where's the plugins thing? Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of plugins they support, right? From having Vim mode enabled. So if I would like, for example, let me find a long command, cloud formation. How I did some, okay, no. Right, so one of the things, like for example, let's say I wanna move to the end of this thing. I can keep doing that, or I can escape it and just press 0 and then use all the Vim key commands and back and forth and replace and all those things. So hello xpadfootx, hello. So Vim is one of the great plugins here, but it also has the AWS plugin. So it supports things. It can set profiles. It can do things such as show you the current running profile, but that's not the main thing. So if you can do this, AWS EC2, and then you can do like that. It's able to give you, or it's able to kind of suggest which commands you want to run, right? So it gives you the hinting for them as well. So describe for sure, and then maybe EC2, or no, describe instances, right? So there you go. This is not available by default within just using AWS CLI. So the Vim, the setup here from OhmyZSH and the AWS plugin on it just helps you do this. So pretty neat, I must say, right? So this kind of a thing is that kind of brings a lot of ease to my CLI usage. But let's give it more power. So I mentioned, yeah, it gives you autocomplete. So I've mentioned before, and this in my previous streams, I've done more with CLI, so I'm not going to be focusing on AWS CLI, but there's a different version of AWS CLI. It's actually made by AWS as well, or AWS Labs. It's called aws-shell. So to install this, you do pip3 install aws-shell, and then user. So not that, user. So it will install aws-shell. And what aws-shell is, well, this wonderful utility that gives you not just a CLI command, but full-on shell. So let's give it a moment for it to spin up. Basically, it creates a whole lot of documentation and indexing in the background. So let's see how it all goes. Okay. All right. So if I go here, I can do EC2. Oh, wow. Describe. Or I can just do all of these things, right? Let's not delete anything. Let's just do describe. Describe. I can just tab here or go here, and it will do that. Or I can do AWS describe, and then you can actually select the parameters as well, right? So here, you know, page items, no handle, all those instance IDs. Like I can even select an instance ID. Then what it will do, it will auto-populate all the instance IDs in the given region. So if I want to do this, it's able to do that as well. So there's also little things such as, let me just switch to this. Where can I? It can also do, if I do F3, it can switch the keys to Vim, so you can do all of those other things as well. So pretty neat utility. I would say for a lot of people who want to get a lot of information from the CLI, but want a simpler experience or a more, let's say, more simpler experience when using CLI, or more natural experience when you want to do some commands, this would help a lot, because you can just kind of fuzzy search a lot of different things. So I don't know what other rarely used command. I can use DynamoDB, right? And then I can it also shows me what is DynamoDB, right? So maybe I can list. Is there a list? Can I, what is it? Describe, update, delete, or list tables, right? It can list all the tables here as well. So pretty cool. I think it's a very neat utility. Supports all the different things, like all the things that AWS CLI does. But on top of that, it's simpler to use. Now there's this one more tool I was told that I should try to use, and I have not tried it. So it's called SAWS, or SAWS. So it's supposed to be a better shell. So if I would just find it here, let's actually copy paste the URL here. So it's this one. It's made by Donnie Martin. So this is basically a supercharged version of database CLI. It looks kind of like the database shell. So, but yeah, interesting. Let's have a look. It looks, I like the color thing on it, right? So it has a really nice syntax coloring. So how do you install it? Well, our good old friend pip install AWS, or nah, SAWS, and let's see how this works. SAWS. Okay, so see, it caches all the information coming from database accounts. Oh, but it looks pretty much like the AWS shell. Oh, interesting. Is this kind of an offshoot of that? Interesting. Let me have a look. Well, it was updated recently, 17 hours ago. Yeah, interesting. So this actually might be like a kind of a fork. Is this a fork of something? Interesting. It looks very much similar like the AWS shell. So, but yes, I guess it does the same thing. Yeah, describe instances, and then you can do instance ID and whatever. Yeah. EC2 command doesn't exist. Interesting. AWS. Oh, interesting. This thing, you have to really do that. Can I do this? Ooh, interesting. It gives me ability. Oh, it has ls as well. Interesting. So I can do, instead of describe instances, I can just do the ls command. Pretty neat. Yeah. So again, interesting tool. It can help you a lot with your CLI usage if you want to go at it. Now I'm gonna step away a bit from CLIs or AWS CLIs. I'm still gonna stay in the terminal, but I want to talk about a different tool, something that's not AWS specific, and a lot of people ask me about it, and a lot of people use it. So I mentioned CloudFormation in this case, and CloudFormation is this great utility that will help you develop infrastructure through infrastructure as code. So write your CloudFormation templates, you know, like these things, not these things, like this thing, yeah. So you write your CloudFormation templates like this. Oh, that's pretty good. But CloudFormation is not the only name of the game. There's a few others, and I'm going to mention a few of them. But I want to mention this as a third-party alternative. So there's a tool called Terraform. You may have heard of it. Terraform is basically similar to CloudFormation. So Terraform is coming from HashiCorp. So it's a utility that basically has a similar approach to CloudFormation, but in my own opinion, it has a better syntax. So it uses a nicer language. It's nicer to look at. It's nicer to write and code than it. So if you have any problems with CloudFormation or CDK, which I'm going to mention later on, Terraform is also a really great tool. So how do you get started with Terraform? Well, brew, install Terraform. There you go. So this should do it, and that's it. So I mean, you can do it manually, right? Terraform, here you have pre-compiled binaries. So if you want a macOS version of it, you can just download this package here, which is just a single, it will have a binary and you can execute that binary anywhere. It just has to sit somewhere in your path, or for any of the other systems here as well. So even for Windows, you just get a binary. You don't install it in the proper terms. It's just a binary that sits somewhere and you execute it. So right now I have installed Terraform, and can I do something? Let's do this workstation setup. Go to Terraform. I think Terraform init. Yeah. So currently I can start working here. It's an empty directory, but basically I can just use Terraform. Is it Terraform plan? Yeah, but I have no Terraform files, so there's no configuration files. There's nothing here. I need a .tf file or something like that to kind of work with it. This is not a fully fledged stream on Terraform, which I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do on coming soon. I don't know exactly when, but I'm gonna do an intro to Terraform as well, because it's a really cool utility that I think people should check it out. So that's how you install Terraform. So if you're working with Terraform, brew install Terraform on a Mac. Simple as that. If you don't want to use brew, or if you use another operating system, Linux probably has a package manager that can do that for you. Windows, there's a simple binary file for you as well. But in any case, you can just take a binary file, put it somewhere in your path, and this should work. Okay, another tool for infrastructure as code. So I mentioned this really quickly, but it's called CDK. So I've actually done a full stream on CDK. I did like a how do you get started with CDK, how do you install it. But I think CDK is also one of those things that you need if you want to do some infrastructure as code. Well, if you choose CDK, right? So to install CDK, you just run npm install. So we use npm here -g. So we're installing this package globally, AWS CDK, right? So this is gonna basically just pull down the package from npm, and it's a package written in Node, I guess. And yeah, that's it. So I have updated it right now. So I had an older version, but you can do CDK version to get the current one that's running. So that's it. So I have CDK set up here. There's no other things you need to do to start working with CDK, because both CDK and both Terraform take the parameters locally stored from your CLI setup. So you don't have to do any special things there. You can define specific AWS keys per tool, or you can define them specifically for a CDK or for Terraform, but if none of them exist, it's going to use the ones that are set up with the CLI. Cool. And that's CDK. So how do you get started with CDK? I'll just give you a quick example. Okay, there, CDK demo, right? CDK. Okay, cool. And then CDK init, application, and I'll just define a language. So CDK uses general programming languages such as JavaScript, TypeScript, Python, .NET, and what more? I think Java. I'm not sure. It uses one of those languages to basically help you write infrastructure as code. So it doesn't use a domain-specific languages. You can just use any of these. And right now I have defined that I want to use TypeScript for my application here. So yeah, it will just generate the entire structure, the entire skeleton for this, fetch all the things it needs, some of the basic requirements in the terms of packages, and that's it. So you're ready to work with CDK. You're ready to write your first CDK template and deploy infrastructure. But we're not going to do that. Since we are in the field of infrastructure as code, one of the other things you might want to do, especially if you work with serverless. Now, CDK can be used for serverless, right? Both CloudFormation, CDK, and Terraform, all of them can be used for serverless applications, but there are a few tools specifically made for serverless, right? So some of the tools that are really cool if you want to make a serverless application. You see me use one really shortly before from the text editor. It's called SAM CLI. So SAM is serverless application model that basically helps you, helps you create a serverless application. How do you install this? Actually, it's a 2-line code. Where is this thing? Yes. So we're using Brew again. But one of the things we need to add a tab. A tab is basically as a repository of applications. So we add a tab for AWS, and we install AWS SAM CLI. So I believe I have AWS SAM CLI already installed, but yeah, we can try to do something with it. Yeah, it's installed. That's fine. So if I go to SAM sample, SAM app, right? I have an application running here, but let me try to do another one. MK or like SAM, I believe it's init. SAM help. Let's see. Yeah, SAM init. Let's initialize an application. I will use one of the quick start templates, just like that. Select one of the languages I used to. So this is a very similar way I did it from the text editor from VS Code, but I can just do it here from the terminal. So again, I'll choose Node.js. Why not? I'll give it a name. I'll call it something else. SAM from the command line. So it basically creates clone an empty repository here. If I go to SAM from the command line, you will see that I have a few things here, including the SAM template. The SAM template in itself is this CloudFormation template with transformations built in for serverless, right? But I can just do SAM deploy, SAM deploy, right? SAM deploy -- guided. This will basically guide me through the deployment process. I can just give it a SAM name. A stack name is hello stream, right? Region EU West 1. I'll pick that one. Confirm changes. Yeah, that's fine. It will create a role for me. That's fine. Save arguments. Please do. So what it will do now, it will upload all the things I have to here, and it will upload it all to S3 and create a CloudFormation template. Or it actually creates a CloudFormation change set that does that. Hello Fatboy6. Fatboy6, yes. Okay. Creating progress, that's it. It created a few things. Now, once this is done, we will have basically deployed a serverless application to CloudFormation. Simple as that, right? So, but I'm doing this so just to show you one other neat tool that I found out recently. It's open source. It's a pretty cool thing, especially if you do things with SAM or serverless. So, how did we name our stack? So it was something hello streamer, right? If I go here and refresh, hello stream, yes, okay. So there's this tool called SLS Dev Tools. So it's basically serverless dev tools. I'm gonna install it with npm. I have it already installed, but it's this really neat tool that you can have a check out. So you can do SLS Dev Tools. And then I need to find out what is the syntax here. Yes. So and stack name is hello stream, right? The region is EU West 1. and I need to specify that this was created in SAM. So if I do this, I get this Hollywood-esque terminal here that shows me interesting things. For example, you see here on the right-hand side, you see like in which region does my application run. It's currently just EU West, but my application currently consists of one Lambda function. If I would have multiple Lambda functions in multiple regions, they would show up all here. So I can hit enter on my Lambda function, and you see here that there's a problem with something, but you can see that Lambda function, you will get like a function metrics. You will see how many invocations it has, how many errors. You will also get like a server log as well. For some reason, this specified log group doesn't exist. Yeah, it's a little neat tool, but sometimes it needs to be kind of tweaked a bit. It did work for the first time when I tried it out, but in essence here it would show you like the current like state of this little dashboard. So if you want a command line dashboard for your serverless applications, here you go. It's pretty cool. Okay, let me zoom in a bit. What else? What else can I talk about? Oh, yes. Let's step away from the command line and let's go back to our browser. Yes, that's the word. So there's this little utility that I kind of found out about, which is pretty cool. It's open source. It was made by some wonderful people. But if I go, let me just log into my thing here. Okay. So getting started with CloudFormation and Terraform and all of the other things can be complex, right? So especially if you're a first time user, you can use things such as having plugins that can help you generate templates and all that stuff. That's pretty cool. But there's a little utility that can kind of help you do that things in a better way. So what about if I could just go here on for example, if I can go here to my EC2 console and I can create an EC2 instance and say, generate me a CloudFormation template from that. I used to work in AWS supporting CloudFormation, and that's something that people ask a lot, right? Why don't you do that? I want to click a button and I want to click a whole lot of things and that to generate me a template. So there's a group of very smart people that created this little tool called Console Recorder. Let me blow your mind. So it's an extension, or it's a Chrome extension, right? Extension like that. Yeah, if I go here, if I go to the Chrome Web Store and look for console, console recorder, check that out. So I've actually added this thing, but what is console recorder? It will record your actions on the console, on the web console, and it will generate a whole bunch of things for you, right? So let me show you. So I have it already installed here. If I click this button, say start recording. So it's recording what I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna go here and launch an EC2 instance. Say launch an instance. I want to select Amazon Linux. Select the T2 large, let's say. Let me just move my face from here. Configure some instance details. I'm going to choose, I don't know, let's use this VPC. I want to assign an IP address. That's fine. I want to add some metadata, like I want to add I'm not sure if this will work. Bin bash, let me add some user data. Bin bash and just yum y update and yum y install. Awesome. Add storage. I will change this to 20 gigs. Add some tags. I'll add a name tag. Call it hello console recorder. And security group, I'm actually gonna select one existing security group. There's one this here, that's fine. Review and launch. I'll make sure to select the key pair that I have, like that, and launch instances. Now, this, in essence, if I click stop recording, should have given me a whole bunch of things. So this thing will actually provide me with a set of code for different frameworks. Like this is a Python version of what I did right now. Right? It may seem complex. There's a lot of describes. It's not perfect, right? It cannot do all the resources absolutely, but it collects a lot of things that you do, right? But for example, for CloudFormation, it creates an EC2 instance, T2 large, that's the AMI, that's the key I use. This is the user data base 64, right? In base 64, uses the size of a disk. It basically did what I asked it to. So it actually has done all the things I've done. I've clicked on the console. If you go to Terraform, the same thing, right? It creates, configures the provider, it creates a network interface, creates an EC2 instance, user data, all of the things. So if you wanted to do something in Terraform, like create an instance, here you go, right? So I can literally just do this right now, I think, if I do this, and then let's try our Terraform buddy to see if it works, right? Is it here? No, it's here. Terraform, let's say vim instance df. Save this. Actually, let's be smart about it. And let's Terraform plan. Provider AWS not super version. Okay. So I need to install. Okay. So I need to install Terraform provider. So Terraform providers. Okay. So I need to install a specific provider for AWS in this case, right? On resource instance. Or it doesn't have version constraints. So I may be using an old version of the code. No suitable version installed. Okay. Let's install the Terraform provider. Terraform. Come on. Interesting. Do I have to install this provider or not? I shouldn't have to. Interesting. So how does one do this? Use provider. Okay. I did it. I specified it. Oh, I maybe need to Terraform init. Terraform init. Yes. Terraform init like this. Yes. So it's pulling the plugin right now because it has the provider. So Terraform plan. It will plan out this entire thing. So there's a problem here. Instance. Okay, yeah. Again, it's not super perfect, but it gives you the ability to kind of have a look at some other things, from Troposphere and even CDK here, like by using the TypeScript, or if you want to use AWS CLI, it will basically show you all the commands that I've run here as CLI. Most of these are useless, right? Because a lot of describe ones and like showing off keys, etc. So they're not pretty useful here. Other things. Excellent tool. I would advise this for everybody who wants to start with CloudFormation and struggles writing their first CloudFormation template. Other one is called Former 2. I believe it comes from the same folks as do the CloudFormation recorder or console recorder, but basically it's an add-on again to your browser. So if I add this thing here. Okay. I should be able now to kind of export a lot of things. For example, if I do that. Okay, cool. 180%. That's fine. So Former 2, in essence, can basically scan my account, right? So it can scan my account in EU, Ireland, like that. Right, and it can find resources that I have here. Retry delay, error call. There's a problem here, right? Does it work? Hosts. You should be able to do this. So in essence, what you can do here, you can take already created resources, things you have created within your AWS account manually. You can select them, and it will generate templates. It will generate, stuff for you, right? It has a problem here. I probably haven't configured it properly. So is there a setup thing I need to do? Credentials. Oh, I need to set up credentials. But if I do this, so the plugins are for some specific services. But yes, I would have to set up credentials here. I don't have the credentials right now, and I don't want to paste them here. But in essence, I can paste my credentials here. It needs read-only access, so do not give them credentials that are not read-only. It needs read-only access. Take this thing, and it will read all the things that you have. Well, I don't think all things, but most things from your AWS account. And then you can kind of export those things out to a template. Right? I believe it supports, what kind of outputs does it support? CloudFormation, Terraform, Troposphere, and CDK. So pretty cool, right? It doesn't support all of them, so no Bodo, no AWS CLI. But to be fair, most of the people that will use this will use it either for Terraform or CloudFormation or maybe CDK. Yeah. Oh, one more thing, and it's back to the console again. And this is the thing I actually highly advise, especially if you're going to do anything with CLI. It's a tool called JQ. So for those who have not used JQ, so brew install JQ. So it's basically a JSON parser tool. So this tool helps you if you get a big string. Let's say if you do like a describe instance call that I made with the CLI, and you get this big JSON blob out. The best way or the simplest way to parse these things from the command line is by use of JQ, because JQ can step through the JSON elements and can get you a single value outside, right? Let's say you want an instance ID from a whole lot of instances or a whole lot of JSON. You can take this thing and you can use JQ to extract this information out. Okay, wow, it's been almost an hour. Wow, geez, that's been fast. Okay, one more thing I want to show, and this is I've done a stream again on this. A lot of things I talked about today I've done a stream on, but it's Cloud9. So what is Cloud9? Cloud9 is this tool that gives you it's a web-based IDE. So it's this thing you run in your browser. It's a full IDE. It actually runs on an EC2 instance underneath, but it contains most of the tools you would need for these kind of things. So let's say I think it has JQ installed. It doesn't have JQ installed, but it has like SAM installed, right? SAM should be running here as well. I think CDK present here. CDK is also present. So all of these tools are already existing. So if you do not want to like mess up your laptop, or if you have a machine that does not support these tools for some reason, you can use something like Cloud9 that can help you a lot. Doug says JQ works well, but it can be helpful to use query with AWS CLI when possible. So yes, that's correct. So the AWS CLI has support for the query parameter, so the -- query parameter, and this is where you can actually query a specific value from the CLI. So it uses the similar syntax to what JQ does. Actually, I did this on my CLI stream, and it's very powerful. If you're dealing with AWS CLI, you don't necessarily need to use JQ, but if you use JQ, if you use a lot of different tools that have JSON, you want a single tool or a single, let's say, single suite that will that you can use across all the things. So you don't want to use JQ on one and maybe query on the other. So yes, Doug says that Cloud9 can be used as on a very low power device. Absolutely. So one of the ways I use Cloud9 as, again, this is a text editor, right? So this is well, not just text editor. It's a IDE, right? It supports all the things. And if you want to listen about more things that Cloud9 can do, I did a stream not so long ago, so you can find it on Twitch or YouTube. But in essence, it's an EC2 instance running with a IDE software package on top of it with a lot of tools, and it can run anywhere. So if you have a tablet, if you have a Chromebook or whatnot, you can use Cloud9 for those things as well. Okay, cool. So that kind of wraps up my quick go through all the tooling you would need or should need to like kind of work with AWS. At least these are the things that I use. You can check them out all on this GitHub page. What I need for AWS with dashes in between. It's open and you can check it out. All the things are there, and yeah. So if you have some suggestions or some other tools, I mean, I have a whole list of things that people have suggested to me. But again, it would take me a couple of hours to finish the stream then. But there's a whole lot of things like I can do here as well. So. That's it, I guess. Yeah, that's all I wanted to show. One thing I want to note is next stream is happening next Tuesday, and I'm going to be showing something else. Going to be showing up Amazon Workspaces. It's our desktop as a service thing. So please feel free to check it out on Tuesday. I wish you all a really nice weekend, and I think Easter weekend. So if you all have days off, enjoy your long weekends. Here in Germany, we have like a long weekend. So tomorrow until Monday, it's easy going. So yeah, thank you very much once again for joining. I will upload this stream. It will be uploaded on Twitch. If not, it's going to be on YouTube. So feel free to check it out there. And yeah, leave me any feedback if you have some more things you want me to talk about. And yeah, once again, thank you very much. And I will see you next week. Bye-bye.